When you look up into space, do you ever think about the endlessness of it all? The distant stars and planets that we will never reach in our lifetime, instead leaving it to future generations to voyage through infinite black. But what happens when we instead look back at our home? From the windows of the International Space Station, astronauts experience an interesting psychological phenomenon known as the overview effect. A shift in perspective on the planet and their place in the universe by seeing everything you know floating in this fragile ball of life.
How in the world am I going to describe this? There's no words. There's no picture I could take to do it justice. There's no watercolors that I could put on paper to come close to the ever-changing picture that I see staring at this planet.
Although only a very fortunate few of us get to experience the overview effect from space, we can all get a sense of it from the images we see online and from flying in our sky. And ironically, as humankind ventures farther and farther out, we begin to realize that our planet is not as endless as we assume it to be from the ground below. The most common question astronauts get when they return home is,
what was it like?
In 1961, humankind entered space for the first time when the Soviets launched Vostok 1, completing a full orbit around the Earth. Trembling with excitement, I watched a world so new and unknown to me, trying to see and remember everything, pilot Yuri Gagarin quotes. Since then, over 600 people from 43 nations have crossed over the widely recognized Kármán line to officially enter space. Escaping our planet's atmosphere grants us many different perspectives through distance. From orbit, you can see the full beauty of our world backdropped against the whole of the universe.
I can only describe what I've seen. Looking down at the Earth and you see that line that separates day into night slowly moving across the planet. Thunderstorms on the horizon casting these long shadows as the sun sets, and then watching the Earth come alive.
When you go around the Earth in an hour and a half, you begin to recognize your identity is with the whole thing, and that makes a change. You look down there and you can't imagine how many borders and boundaries you cross again and again and again, and you don't even see them. There you are, hundreds of people in the Middle East killing each other over some imaginary line that you're not even aware of.
But it doesn't take being hundreds of miles up in space to understand this sentiment. Next time you're on a flight, look out the window and peer down into the vast landscape that we so frequently traverse on foot. See the places you go to, the huge buildings that normally tower above us. Your worries and fears become small with distance. And then see the mountains and roads and fields and rivers, all interweaving into a portraiture of our shared space. In fact, the overview effect was coined not from space, but from a regular cross-country flight in the 1970s.
I was looking out the window, and as I was looking down at the planet, the thought came to me, anyone living in a space settlement or living on the moon would always have an overview. They would see things that we know, but we don't experience, which is that the Earth is one system, we're all part of that system, and that there is a certain unity and coherence to it all. And I immediately called it the overview effect.
The interesting thing about space exploration, and exploration in general, is that it directs almost all our attention to the infinite. In games, for example, there's a large appeal to having randomly generated worlds because it means you'll never run out of something new. We want to see the stunning and picturesque without fear that it's the best we'll see. That way, there's always something more beautiful to fall back on. But our world is far from endless. When we send out our deep space probes, the end comes into view. From 4 billion miles out, 8 billion people comprised less than a single pixel. Voyager 1, The source of the photo is mankind's most distant fingertip stretching outwards. A more than 15 billion mile extension from us now, the probe's power won't last more than a decade. But even in silence, the Voyager 1 will exist long beyond our own lives. Because in the grand scheme of the universe, our time and place on Earth is invisible. But that doesn't make what we have worth nothing. In fact, I think it makes it mean everything. Because within our finite time here, to be alive in this system together is almost infinitely lucky. To share the same time and position on the planet's crust counts for more than you think.
The Earth is so small and so fragile, and such a precious little spot in that universe that you can block it out with your thumb. And you realize on that small spot, that little blue and white thing is everything that means anything to you. All of history and music, and poetry and art, and death and birth, and love.
Only 12 men have had the privilege of setting foot on the moon. From this middle ground, you can see both the beauty of our planet and its fragility.
When I was the last man to walk on the moon in December 1972, I stood in the blue darkness and looked in awe at the Earth and the lunar surface. What I saw was almost too beautiful to grasp. You don't see the barriers of color and religion and politics that divide this world. You wonder, if you could get everyone in the world up there, wouldn't they have a different feeling?
Our adventure into the stars has already fulfilled one purpose: to remind us that this is home. This is what we have and what we should protect. We can draw lines in the sand to make up countries, but our only visible marks are the injuries we cast onto nature.
There's this very poetic concept that a lot of people express, that there are no boundaries from space. And I've heard a lot of my astronaut colleagues say that. Unfortunately, it's not true. You do see boundaries. They're mostly the result of human impact. You can see erosion, clear-cutting of forests, and you know, it's a long litany of environmental impact that we've had on our planet, and that's something which, when you see it from the cosmic perspective, makes you really appreciate the concept of Spaceship Earth and that we're all here together.
So take all these perspectives and appreciate what we have. Underneath the shared sky, this is our home.